Room service surprise. Marcus was tired. His ship had just landed after a long cargo run across 3 sectors. His back hurt, his eyes burned, and he hadn't had a warm meal in 2 days. All he wanted was sleep, food, and silence. He checked into a small dusty motel on the edge of a colony moon. The neon sign outside blinked. Galaxy Inn. Hot food 24/7. The lobby smelled strange, like metal and burnt oil, but he didn't care. He just needed a place to rest. The clerk, a bored alien with 3 eyes and a slow voice, handed him a keycard. Room 314. Breakfast is free with your stay. Just press the red button. Marcus nodded and walked down the narrow hallway. The lights flickered. Somewhere water dripped. The room was small and smelled better than the lobby. He dropped his bag, sat on the bed, and let out a deep sigh. He saw the red button near the bed. With a tired smile, he said to himself, "Let's see if their breakfast is actually food." He pressed the button. 5 minutes passed. Nothing. 10 minutes. Then, a knock. Marcus stood and walked to the door, expecting a tray of cheap food or maybe a delivery bot. He opened the door and froze. Standing there was a girl, an alien girl. She was young, maybe in her early 20s in human years. Her skin was soft silver, glowing faintly under the hallway light. Her hair was white and long, almost reaching her waist. Her eyes were large, bright violet, and filled with something he didn't expect: fear. She wore a thin motel robe that didn't look warm enough for even the hallway. Her feet were bare, her hands trembling. In those hands, she carried a silver tray with a covered dish and a cup of something steaming. Marcus blinked. This is breakfast?" The girl nodded slowly, not saying a word. She walked inside without waiting for an invitation and placed the tray on the small table near the window. Marcus closed the door behind her. "Do you work here?" She didn't answer. Her eyes stayed on the floor. Marcus frowned. Something felt wrong. She didn't act like a normal server or worker. She looked nervous, too nervous. Her hands were shaking too much for someone just delivering food. He stepped closer. "Hey, are you okay?" She flinched. That was the first real sign. He raised both his hands in front of him. "I'm not going to hurt you, okay? I'm just confused. I thought they'd send food, not..." He looked her up and down. "A person." The girl looked up for a second. Her lips moved slightly. "They said I had to serve." Her voice was soft, fragile. Marcus sat down slowly. "Did they force you to do this?" She hesitated, then gave a tiny nod. Marcus felt a knot in his chest. "What's your name?" She shook her head. "I don't have one." He blinked. "You don't have a name?" "They didn't give me one," she whispered. "Who are they?" The girl looked at the wall. "The owners." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at the tray. He lifted the lid. The food looked decent. Eggs. Toast. Some kind of blue fruit, and the drink smelled like spiced tea. But he had lost his appetite. He looked back at her. "Do they do this often? Send you to guests like this?" She nodded. "And you have to. Stay if they ask you to?" Her hands trembled again. "Yes." Marcus stood up. "Okay. You don't have to stay. Not here. Not with me." Her eyes widened. "But they'll punish me if I return too fast." Marcus felt anger boiling inside. This isn't right. She moved to the corner and sat on the floor. Knees hugged to her chest. "They said I have to stay for at least 1 hour. Marcus sat back down on the bed, thinking, who were these people? What kind of place was this motel? He looked at the console on the wall. He had seen the guest system interface earlier. Maybe it had some info. He stood, opened the system, and began tapping through menus. After a few tries, he reached the staff directory. Her image wasn't listed. No name, no ID, just blank. Suddenly, the screen blinked red. Unauthorized access. Detected. Marcus stepped back. A loud beep 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 filled the room. The girl gasped and crawled further into the corner. They know. Marcus cursed under his breath. What the hell is this place? Outside the window, a small drone floated up, scanning the room. Then, a knock on the door. It was loud. Too loud. Room check, a voice said from outside. Open. Up. Marcus turned to the girl, her eyes pleaded silently. He whispered, Get under the bed. Now. She crawled quickly and disappeared underneath. Marcus took a deep breath, cracked his neck, and walked toward the door. This breakfast came with more than he expected. Marcus opened the door slowly. Outside stood the motel manager, an alien with dull orange skin, thick arms, and 4 dark eyes that didn't blink. He wore a fake smile stretched too tight across his wide face. Behind him, 2 security drones floated silently, red lights blinking. Good morning, guest, the manager said in a smooth but cold voice. We received an alert. System error. In your room. Just a routine check. Marcus forced a polite grin. No system problem. Must be a glitch. Everything's fine. The manager's eyes scanned the room. His smile faded slightly. May I come in? Marcus stepped aside, heart pounding. Sure. Nothing to hide. The manager and drones entered. Marcus glanced toward the bed. No sign of the girl. She was hidden well. The drones hummed low as they scanned the room. One hovered near the bed. Marcus's stomach tightened. Just a few more inches and they might... Ping! The drone's light turned green. No threats detected. The manager gave a slow nod and turned back to Marcus. Enjoy your stay. And next time, don't touch the restricted files. It upsets our system. Understood, Marcus said, pretending to smile. The door closed. Silence. Marcus rushed to the bed and lifted the cover. The girl was curled up, shaking. It's okay, he whispered. They're gone. She crawled out, her face pale. I heard everything, she said softly. They'll check again. Maybe tonight. Marcus helped her sit on the edge of the... Oh, we need to get you out of here. Her eyes met his for a moment, then looked down. You shouldn't help me. They'll hurt you too. I've been hurt before, he said, but I've never seen something this wrong up close. He grabbed a small med kit from his bag. Let me see your arm. She hesitated, then slowly pulled up her sleeve. Marcus clenched his jaw. There were deep bruises on her wrist, faint burns around a metal tag embedded in her skin. Marcus scanned it with his portable reader. Property of Orban Corp. Asset ID 994AF. She's tagged, he whispered. Like cargo. The girl looked away in shame. I don't want to be property, she whispered. Marcus gently covered her wrist. You're not. Not anymore. She looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. Why do you care? He shrugged. Maybe I'm just tired of seeing bad things and doing nothing. She gave a faint smile. That's rare. What's your name? He asked again. I had one, she said. Long ago. But when they took me, they said I wasn't allowed to keep it. Marcus leaned closer. Do you remember even a part of it? She closed her eyes. Something. Leary? Leary, he repeated. That's a good name. I'll call you that until you remember more. Her eyes welled up with silent tears. Thank you. Marcus stood and began packing his bag. We leave tonight, he said. Quietly. I know some old contacts who still owe me favors. Leary looked at the door. You'll be hunted. I've been hunted before, he said. But this time, I've got a reason. That night, while the motel slept under purple moonlight, Marcus made a fake checkout request from the console. The system confirmed it. They had one chance. He wrapped Leary in a large blanket to hide her glow and walked with her down the service corridor at the back. Just as they reached the exit, a voice echoed behind them, leaving without breakfast? It was the manager, but this time, he wasn't smiling. 2 drones hovered beside him. Weapons extended. Marcus slowly turned, keeping Leary behind him. The manager stepped forward. "Return the asset, and I'll forget this happened. Walk away. Human." Marcus didn't blink. "She's not an asset." Wrong answer. The drones charged their weapons. Before they could fire, Leary stepped out from behind Marcus. Her violet eyes glowed. For the first time, her voice grew strong. "You'll never touch me again," and the hallway lights exploded into sparks. Sparks rained down. The hallway lights flickered violently. The walls shook. The 2 drones went wild, spinning in place, then dropped to the floor, dead. Smoke rose from their broken shells. The manager screamed, shielding his eyes. What did you do?" Leary stood tall. Her eyes still glowed a soft violet. The air around her buzzed with quiet energy. Marcus didn't understand what he had just seen. The manager reached for his comm link to call backup, but Marcus didn't wait. He lunged forward and punched the alien in the face, knocking him into the wall. "Run!" Marcus shouted. Leary turned, and together they bolted down the hallway. They ran out the back exit and into the cold night. Behind them, alarms blared. Red lights flashed over the motel roof. The security system had been triggered. The parking lot was full of rusted ships and broken droids. Marcus led Leary behind a dumpster, breathing hard. "What just happened?" he asked. Leary looked at her hand, still trembling. "I didn't mean to. It happens when I'm scared." "You took out 2 drones and a building's power grid without touching anything." She nodded slowly. "They called it a defect, but I think it's part of who I am." Marcus stared at her, then gave a small laugh. "Remind me never to make you angry." She smiled for the first time. But the moment passed quickly. They heard shouting. The motel security was coming. Marcus took her hand. "We can't stay here." He pulled her toward a line of small, dusty hover bikes used for deliveries. He checked a few. Locked. Broken. Finally, he found one that still hummed when he touched the panel, using an old override trick he learned years ago. He crossed 2 wires with a screwdriver. The engine started. "Hop on," he yelled. Leary climbed on behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist. The bike lifted and zipped into the air just as a spotlight flashed from behind. They were being chased. They rode through narrow alleys, wind hitting their faces. Leary pointed left. "That way. There's a tunnel under the old refinery." Marcus took the turn sharply. A bolt of plasma sizzled past them and exploded against a wall. "Great directions," he said. Behind them, 2 small drone flyers were gaining. Marcus reached into his jacket, pulled out a flare pistol and fired behind him. The blast hit one of the drones. It spun out and smashed into a wall of crates. Leary raised her hand at the second drone and whispered something in her native tongue. The drone froze midair, sparked, and exploded. Marcus stared again. "You sure you're not a weapon?" "I don't know what I am," she said softly. They hid beneath the refinery ruins for hours, the noise of search parties fading in the distance. Cold wind blew. Marcus wrapped his coat around Leary. "You said they called you a defect. Who were they?" Leary rested her head on his shoulder. "I was raised in a lab. The people there didn't use names, only numbers. They said I was too unstable to sell. Then how did you end up in that motel?" "They gave me to someone, a traitor. He gave me to the motel as a gift. I've been there ever since." Marcus's fists clenched. He wanted to break every person who had done this to her. He looked at her. "You deserve to be free." She looked at him with tired, grateful eyes. "Why are you helping me?" He hesitated, then spoke truthfully. "I don't know. Maybe because I've walked past too many people like you before. This time I didn't want to walk away." Leary blinked fast, hiding tears. By sunrise, the search had died down. Marcus contacted an old friend, a smuggler who owed him a favor. They arranged a meeting at a remote landing pad far outside the city. Before they left, Leary looked around the ruins. Even if we escape, where will I go? With me, Marcus said simply. Wherever I go, you're safe. She didn't answer, but her small smile was enough. They climbed onto the hoverbike once more and took off across the dusty plains, headed toward something unknown, but better than what they'd left behind. The hoverbike buzzed across the open land. Dust clouds followed them, and the rising twin suns of the colony planet painted the sky orange and gold. Marcus kept his eyes on the old highway line. Leary sat behind him, quiet but alert, her arms gently holding his waist. She had never left the city before. Everything outside the motel was new. Wide skies, the smell of freedom, the sound of real wind. They reached a broken gate half buried in sand. A faded sign read, Sector 9 Landing Yard, closed by order of Orban Corp. Marcus smirked. Perfect. They passed through the gate and slowed near a large metal dome, rusted, cracked, but still standing. Inside was a secret hangar, one only smugglers and outlaws remembered. Waiting near the entrance was a short man in a red coat and old pilot helmet. His face was wrinkled, his grin was sly. Still alive, Marcus? The man laughed. Didn't think I'd see you again? Marcus got off the bike. Didn't think I'd need you again, Kel. Kel looked at Leary, raised an eyebrow. Company? Marcus nodded. She's why we need a ride. Off-world. Quiet. No scans. Kel squinted. She tagged? Marcus nodded again. But we'll remove it. Kel whistled. You're serious. Do you know what the bounty is for returning assets like her? I'm not giving her back, Marcus said firmly. Kel shrugged. Your funeral. But I'll help, for old time's sake. Inside the hangar, Kel led them to an old ship, dusty, patched but still spaceworthy. My girl, the sly worm. Not fast but quiet. Marcus turned to Leary. First time on a real ship? She nodded, eyes wide. Kel opened a side panel. We'll need to remove that tracker from her wrist. It's deep, surgical, might hurt. Leary sat on a crate, silent but brave. Do it. Kel pulled out a small laser tool and scanning device. Hold still. The room filled with the hum of the tool. Leary flinched but didn't scream. Marcus stood beside her, holding her hand. After a minute, a small black chip popped out of her wrist and fell to the ground, smoking. Kel crushed it under his boot. There, she's a ghost now. But Marcus noticed something, a faint symbol beneath the chip etched into her skin. He leaned closer. It was an alien mark. Ancient. Not corporate. What's that? He asked. Leary looked down at it and shook her head. I don't know. I've never seen it before. Kel looked nervous. That's not from Orban Corp, that's older, real old. You sure you know who she is, Marcus? Marcus didn't answer. Neither did Leary. Later, as Kel fueled the ship, Marcus took Leary to a quiet room. She sat beside him on the floor. You okay? He asked. She nodded. You didn't have to come this far, he smiled. I wanted to. She looked out the small window. I don't remember my planet or my parents, just labs, lights, tests. Marcus said, You remember your name. That means something. She smiled softly. You gave it back to me. An hour later, Kel shouted from the cockpit. We've got movement, 2 flyers coming fast. Marcus stood. They found us. Kel powered the engines. If we launch now, we'll make it. Marcus turned to Leary. You ready? She nodded. Let's fly. They ran aboard. The ship lifted into the air as 2 black flyers appeared over the hills, firing warning shots. Kel weaved through the clouds. If they hit our thrusters, we're toast. Leary stood near the rear window. Her hands glowed faintly. She closed, her eyes. Marcus yelled, Leary, what are you doing? She whispered, Trust me. A pulse of light erupted from her body, flowing out like waves. The 2 flyers froze in midair, then dropped like stones. Marcus stared in shock. Kel blinked. She just fried their systems without touching anything. Leary opened her eyes, breathing hard. They won't follow. Marcus gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Whoever, you really are. You're not a defect. She looked at him and whispered, Then what am I? He didn't answer, but deep down, Marcus knew. This girl was something powerful, something the galaxy wasn't ready for, and now she was in his. Care. The stars outside the window blinked calmly, but inside the ship, everything felt tense. Kel guided the sly worm through an asteroid belt, flying low and silent. No signal, no beacons. That means they're not tracking us. Yet, he said, but his tone wasn't confident. Leary sat beside Marcus, silent. Her body was tired from using her strange powers again. She leaned her head on the wall, breathing slowly. Marcus kept looking at her. She looked peaceful, but there was something changing in her eyes. A quiet fire, something she had never been allowed to show before. He whispered, You okay? Leary nodded slowly. It takes energy to use that power. I didn't even know I had it until they forced me to feel fear, again and again. Marcus's jaw tightened. They made you suffer to awaken it. They called me the Spark. I think I was part of something bigger, but I escaped before they finished their plan. Marcus remembered the strange symbol under her tracker, the mark no one could explain. Then they'll want you back, he said softly. Suddenly, Kel shouted from the cockpit, We've got company. Outside, 3 shadow ships appeared, silent, fast, black as space itself. Marcus ran to the front. Stealth class hunters? Kel nodded. Corporate grade. Orban Corp really wants your girl back. Leary stood behind them, gripping the wall. They'll try to jam your controls, she warned. She was right, the control panel started flashing red. Kel shouted, I'm losing manual flight. Marcus looked back at her. Can you stop them? I'll try, she said, closing her eyes. The ship shook as a warning blast passed near their rear engine. One of the hunter ships docked something sharp to their hull. A tracker parasite. Marcus yelled, They tagged us again. Kel cursed. If we don't lose them soon, they'll call reinforcements. Suddenly, Leary gasped and fell to her knees. Her nose bled. Her skin flickered like weak electricity. Marcus rushed to her side. Leary, she shook her head. Too many minds. They're controlling those ships remotely. I can't stop them all. Marcus pulled out his emergency beacon chip and slammed it into the nav console. We go into the storm. Kel's eyes widened. You're crazy. Marcus pointed through the window. Ahead was a green thunderstorm nebula, violent, unstable, and filled with gas lightning. Kel hesitated. If we go in there, we might not come out. If we stay here, we definitely won't, Marcus replied. Kel hit the thrusters. The ship dove into the storm. Electric light danced across the shields. Static buzzed through the air. The whole ship rattled and groaned. Behind them, 2 of the 3 hunter ships pulled back. Only one followed. Kel growled. One crazy hunter still wants to play. Marcus turned to Leary, who was trying to stand. Can you take down just one? Leary nodded faintly. If you get me close. Marcus helped her to the rear turret station. He placed her hands on the controls. Focus, you don't need to destroy the ship, just shut it down. Leary closed her eyes again. Her breathing slowed. The lights flickered. Suddenly, the hunter ship turned sideways and stopped moving in space, completely frozen. Kel let out a long breath. They're not going to find that one again. Once they escaped the nebula, Marcus checked Leary again. She was pale and sweating. You need rest, he said. She nodded. It's hard to touch so many minds, but I'm learning to aim. You're more powerful than you know, Marcus whispered. Kel landed the ship on a small moon with a hidden station. It was old, half broken, but safe for now. They shut the engines off and powered down the lights. Inside the quiet ship, Leary finally slept. Marcus sat beside her, watching over her like a soldier guarding a treasure. He didn't understand everything yet. But one thing was clear. The galaxy would come for her again, and Marcus would be ready. The moon was quiet, 2. Quiet. Marcus stood outside the ship, scanning the rocky surface. A cold wind blew across the hills, carrying dust and old metal smells. This place used to be a mining post, but now it was just bones and echoes. Inside the ship, Leary slept deeply. Her body was healing, but Marcus knew rest wouldn't be enough. Forever. Each time she used her strange power, she grew weaker afterward. Kel checked some readings. We've got maybe 1 day before someone picks up our energy trail. Orban Corp never sleeps. Marcus nodded. We need help. Somewhere to hide. Maybe a new identity for her. Kel shrugged. I know a guy on Corian Station, a forger. Risky, but it's your best shot. Marcus looked back at the ship. She's not just a girl anymore, she's a target. That night, Marcus heard a sound. He walked quietly to the storage room, only to find Leary sitting on the floor, awake, staring at a glowing orb she held in her hands. It floated just above her palm, spinning gently. Didn't mean to wake you, she said softly. What is that? He asked. My memory, she whispered. It came back. One piece. Marcus sat down beside her. She looked at him. When I was a child, I lived on a world made of glass trees. My mother was tall, silver like me. She taught me how to sing to light. Marcus listened in silence. It sounded like a dream. Then they came, she continued. They burned the trees, took me away. I remember now. My name is Lyriana Vale. My people were not from this galaxy. Marcus stared at her. You're extragalactic? She nodded. That's why they fear me, not because I'm strong, but because I'm unknown. Suddenly, a loud bang shook the ship. Lights flickered. Alarms buzzed. Kel's voice shouted from the front, We've got company. Marcus grabbed his pistol and rushed to the cockpit. Through the window he saw a strange ship, round, black, and silent, landing beside them. It wasn't Orban Corp. It was something older. Symbols across the hull glowed in the same pattern as the mark under Leary's wrist, Marcus whispered. They're not here to capture her. They're here to claim her. They didn't knock. The airlock opened with a hiss, even though they never gave permission. 3 figures walked in. They weren't human. They weren't like any alien Marcus had seen before. Tall, cloaked, skin like glass, eyes like white fire. They moved without sound. Leary stepped into view. The tallest one raised a hand. Child of Vale, come home. Your trial is complete. Marcus raised his pistol. Who are you? The figure didn't even look at him. She is of our blood. You are not. Leary stepped forward. You left me. You watched them take me. We observed, the figure replied. That was the test. Marcus blinked. Test? You let her be taken? Tortured? Leary's voice cracked. I begged in the dark. I screamed every night. And you watched? The tall figure replied. To awaken your power, pain was necessary. Now you may return. Leary stood still. Her hands shook. Then she looked back at Marcus, and she stepped closer to him. I'm not going with you, she said. Silence. You are ours, the alien said. Marcus stepped between them. She's free now. The figure's tone turned sharp. Then she dies with you. Without warning, everything exploded into chaos. Energy blasts struck the ship. Kel screamed from the control room. Leary raised her hands. Power burst from her body like a sun. The alien figures screamed and faded like mist. The ship shook again. Marcus grabbed her arm. We need to leave. Now, Kel shouted. She's cracked the fuel cell. We won't last long. They made it outside, as the sly worm burst into flames behind them. Kel's escape pod barely launched in time, spinning them into the sky. From above, they watched the moon burn. Leary collapsed against Marcus. I made my choice, she whispered. They will never stop coming. But I will never go back. Marcus held her tightly. Then we keep running, together. And somewhere in the dark sky ahead was hope. But it wouldn't come easy because freedom always has a price. The escape pod floated in space. No sound. No light. Just silence and the stars. Inside, Marcus sat beside Leary, his arm around her shoulders. Her silver skin glowed dimly, her energy nearly gone. Across from them, Kel slept with one eye open and a plasma pistol in hand just in case. "Where are we going now?" Leary whispered. Marcus looked at the nav screen. "Nowhere safe. Not yet. But there's a colony on the edge of the neutral zone, run by people who don't ask questions. We go there first." Leary leaned her head against his chest. "Even if we hide, they'll never stop looking for me." Marcus nodded. "Then we don't hide forever. We build a new life, one day at a time." She closed her eyes. "Will you still stay with me, even if I'm dangerous?" "You were dangerous when I met you," Marcus said, smiling. "You just didn't know it." 2 days later, they landed on a small jungle moon called Evera 6. It was full of mist, tall blue trees, and peaceful creatures. The people there were exiles, survivors, forgotten souls. They welcomed Marcus and Leary without questions. Just a nod and shared food. For the first time, Leary walked without fear. She even laughed when she saw baby leaf beasts following her around like pets. Marcus built them a small cabin near a waterfall. He worked by day, hunted by night. Leary helped with crops, taught children how to use light to grow flowers. But every few nights, she woke up screaming. One night, she sat outside the cabin staring at the stars. Marcus joined her. "I see their faces when I sleep," she said. "The scientists, the cloaked ones, the ones who never called me by name." "You're not one of them," Marcus said. "Not anymore." She turned to him. "But who am I?" He thought for a moment. "You're Lyriana Vale, child of light, soul of fire, the girl who came with breakfast and changed everything." She laughed softly. "That's a strange story, you know." Marcus smiled. "The strangest things are often the most important." Months passed. One morning, while Marcus was hunting, a ship landed quietly in the trees. Not Orban Corp, not cloaked ones, a royal vessel. Leary stepped outside and watched as a woman exited the ship, tall, silver-skinned, glowing. Leary dropped to her knees. "Mother?" she whispered. The woman approached, eyes full of tears. "Yes. I never stopped searching. The people who had taken Leary as a child had faked her death. Her mother had searched the stars, lost hope, and finally found her daughter by tracing the energy burst she released when destroying the hunter ship." Marcus returned and froze when he saw them together. Leary ran to him. "This is Marcus," she said proudly, "the man who gave me my name back." The Queen bowed to him. "You gave my daughter what I could not. Safety, freedom, love." The Queen offered Leary a place back in her royal house, among her people in another galaxy. But Leary looked at Marcus and said, "Not without him." Marcus stepped back. "Leary, you don't have to choose me." But she smiled. "I already did." The Queen smiled softly. "Then come, both of you. You will be welcomed not as fugitives, but as heroes." And so the girl once delivered like a silent servant became a queen's daughter again. And the man who just wanted breakfast became a legend. No one at Galaxy Inn ever spoke of what happened again. The motel was quietly destroyed in an electrical accident, its files erased, but whispers spread about a human who fought for a girl no one cared for, about an alien girl who broke her chains with light, and about how one simple act of kindness shook the stars.